Well, terror fears on this anniversary of 9/11 as tensions between terrorist groups still pose a threat to our national security. Are we safer now than we were 14 years ago? Joining me now, Jillian Turner, former White House National Security Staff under President Bush and Obama, also Fox News contributor, and Brad Blakeman, former senior staff to President George W. Bush. And Brad, your nephew, this is a very poignant date for you and your family because your nephew was one of the first responders killed on 9/11. President Bush used to famously say, we fight over there so that we don't have to fight here. But we're not fighting over there. Some people say we should have kept troops in Iraq. That's one of the reasons we have problems. Is there a problem that we're not fighting over there for what happens here?
There's a huge problem, and President Bush was right. If we don't take it to them, they will take it to us. And by us, we mean right here on our homeland, and we can't afford that to happen. And we've let our guard down. We've taken our troops out of places where they could have stopped ISIS from even beginning to entrench themselves in Iraq. And the entire Middle East is in meltdown. Syria is at war. We're emboldening Iran now with this agreement to be flush with cash to continue their terror. So at least as far as I'm concerned, I am in great pain for our country that we will be hit again. And I think will pale in comparison to the attacks that we had to face on 9/11 because we've let our guard down.
Jillian, I happen to believe that had we not left so precipitously, had we not left so quickly in Iraq, perhaps ISIS would not have been given as free a hand as it's had to build up forces in Iraq. A lot of those refugees in Europe, by the way, they're not only from Syria, a lot of them are from Iraq as well because of ISIS spread there. On the other hand, the public just doesn't seem to have feel the need to be over there right now. How do you deal with that? President Obama, of course, is saying he's just fulfilling the public's will.
Yeah, it's a really tough thing because every single poll done by anybody shows that the American public has less than 0% appetite left for military engagement overseas in the Middle East at any time in the near future. You know, we've been through 14 years of this now. I think the general population is very war weary. But what I also want to just tack on here is that, you know, failure in Syria was one thing, you know, reneging on the red line, but we can't dump the entire refugee crisis into President Obama's lap or into any administration's lap. This is a rolling problem.
It is.
It's what we're seeing today is really cumulative, and I just want to hedge against oversimplifying.
I understand.
Right?
I understand. On the other, in fact, we have another guest we want to bring in, Jessie Jane Duff, a retired gunnery sergeant for the U.S. Marine Corps and senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. We've been admiring each other from afar, Jessie, because you're a former gunnery sergeant. My son is a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, so semper fi to you, first of all.
Semper fi.
My son fought both in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's happy not to be fighting now. That's a picture of him.
Sure.
But at the same time, he says he feels that there's something coming. He doesn't know where, he doesn't know when.
Absolutely.
Do you get the same sense among military that you speak to, that there does seem to be something about to happen somewhere, something's going to pop somewhere?
Well, it's not that we even have to sense it. We're quite aware of it every single day because it's no longer just Al-Qaeda with Osama bin Laden. When he disappeared, when Osama bin Laden was killed, guess what? We now have multiple splinter groups throughout the world. And right now, we can see people being slaughtered in Africa. We can see people being slaughtered by ISIS. But you have 5 major terrorist groups out there besides or including ISIS. And get this, the Iranians that we are now sending all this money to also are one of the world's greatest proponents of what? Terrorism. So when you pull it all back, it's a no-brainer here.
So, Jessie, let me just quickly get from you, where do you think it's going to pop? If you have to pick a location, is it going to be in Syria, where we would have to send our troops in somehow to do something? Would it be in Iraq? Would it be in Syria? Maybe even in Iran?
Yeah.
Where?
Okay, right now, we already know that Russia's going into Syria, and they're going to be fighting the very people our CIA is trying to support. It is quite possible we're going to get sucked into Syria because Assad has already driven all of the Christians out of Syria just about, and we're looking at a mass exodus into all of Europe. At this point, Europe and the United States have to stop this from happening because it's going to destroy the rest of the world.
Well, our sympathies to the next commander-in-chief, because whoever it is going to have one heck of a job. Jessie Jane Duff, Brad, we're going to see more of you coming up. And Jillian, thank you very much, Jillian Turner. Appreciate it.